Alright mate, how you doing? Top of the morning. Now, I'm gonna have to put my cap backwards for this one. I've never been more serious about anything in my entire life. Let's get into it. So, how are we all doing? My name is Ben. Fighting extraordinaire. Mike Tyson's apprentice. Strongman enthusiast. And overall, strong titan. Word on the street is Eddie the Beast Hall and Hafthor the Mountain Bjornsson. I just like to call them Beast and Mountain. Eddie Thor. The Kraken versus the Ice Sculpture. These are just many names in which the fight between these two are being called. Now the beef goes back millennia. Namely, the World's Strongest Man competitions, where they didn't really get along sometimes. Thor had some discrepancies over reps and other things like that. In particular, the Viking Press event in 2017, where Eddie beat Thor by 1 rep and one of Thor's reps were disallowed. This caused chaos and overall tensions are high between the two. Now jokingly, these two have been at each other's throats, throwing little jabs here and there saying, I can take you in a fight. No, I think I can take you in a fight. And overall, nothing will be found out until the two fight it out. So I think this has been aggravated by fans of the strongman world who want to see Eddie versus Thor in a boxing match. Now this is all joking and probably more for publicity than anything else. But the two do have a bit of bad blood between them. And overall the two were at each other's throats trying to win that title, which is all in the spirit of competition. Having said that, do they really want to fight each other? Probably not. At the end of the day, they are competitors. They're going to be competitive. And they're not always going to get along. But overall, they're both pretty nice guys, so I wouldn't have thought they really want to go out and hurt each other. Having said that, we need to decide who will win and what would happen if these two actually did fight each other. We're talking about two 1,000 plus pound deadlifters. So much power between each one that in theory, one punch from each of them could just knock each other's heads off. Some of the most powerful punches in human history would be thrown by these two. They've moved some serious weight over the course of their careers, and if power equals punching strength, then these two would be at the very top of the field. But in reality, if these two were to box it out against each other, how would that go down? Well, Thor is 6'9", 200 kilos, and an absolute monster. And Eddie is 6'3", 170 kilos, and still an absolute monster, even though he has retired from strongman. Now, just off those stats alone, Thor has the weight and height advantage. And because he's got the height advantage, he almost certainly has the reach advantage. Therefore, if this was a professional fight, and those were the two stats lined up against each other, you'd have to give it to Thor based purely on physical stats. Height and weight are two big advantages in a boxing match. But we're talking about two people that probably haven't fought, at least in a very long time. Why would they need to, really? We've seen that Eddie himself has boxing experience and often does boxing training for his kind of cardio and strength and conditioning work. Whereas Thor, we have not seen any kind of boxing with him besides the little spar he did with Conor McGregor, which is more MMA, and he looked pretty nimble, he looked fairly agile, but that was years ago as well. The reality is, and I'll say that again because we're all about reality in this and being real, boxing is more a skill-based, reaction, fast-paced sport. And just because you have the reach doesn't really mean anything. What's most likely to happen if these two didn't have any training is they'd both come together in some kind of Clash of the Titans and just slug it out, and whoever wins, wins. with no real boxing skill to be seen. It would be a fight, not a boxing match. However, if we're talking 1 year down the line, both having trained, what would go down? Now, in my opinion, although weight is normally an advantage, these guys are so heavy that any weight that they have is just going to make them slower. So it is actually the person that probably loses the most weight in their preparation that would have the advantage, would have the speed, would have the agility to work around the other person. If they're both around the 200 kilo mark, they'll be so stiff and immobile. That's just a matter of fact. You can't really punch. You can't punch very hard if you can barely get your fist behind and get no sort of wind up. Then you just end up doing these jabby sort of bunts at each other. So that's an important factor of who would be able to lose the most weight, be the most conditioned, the fastest and most agile person going into the fight. I think that will be the key difference between someone winning and someone losing. Boxing skill is important, but if you can't move and use it, then there's not much point having it. Punching power is fine for both of them. They would not need any help in that area. So it is simply a matter of movement. So from my Peaky Blinder point of view, I would give this fight to Eddie, and here's the reason why. Eddie is not doing strongman at the moment and has a history of boxing training. I reckon he'd take it more seriously because he wouldn't have other things distracting him, and he would be able to train and drop weight effectively. Thor, on the other hand, probably doesn't have as much time to commit to training because he's got other stuff going on, and he will have just come off competing from strongman if they were to do it in a year's time or so. I know he's got a busy schedule this year with World's Strongest Man, the Arnolds, and anything else he has going on. I'm not his assistant, I don't know his schedule, but it is pretty busy. So I think Eddie will be able to commit more time to the training and therefore be able to lose more weight and just have better all-round technique. Thor, he has those physical advantages of height and reach. But I think what will happen is even with a year of training, they'll both still come together and it'll be a bit of a slugfest. People will be throwing hands all over the place, and it'll just be the person that has better mobility and can get more punches off that will come out on top. It's going to be whoever lands more and whoever can kind of absorb more that will win. Either way, it's a fight, so everyone has a puncher's chance. It is something you would not expect to see, and if a fight between those two did happen, or a boxing match, it would be quite a spectacle to behold. If anything, it'd be more like sumo wrestling than boxing. Either way, both guys are incredibly committed, professional beasts. So I wouldn't put it past them to get some, if they did train for this, have some serious training camps going on. And I think they would both take it very seriously indeed. So if this fight were to happen, you can expect a big step up from where they are now to what they would be when they actually fight. Because they're not going to take this like a joke. They'll put some serious training in. And hopefully there's no real bad blood between them, because they both come across as solid guys. So if it happens, it happens. And if it does happen, my money would be on Eddie to win. That's my thoughts on the boxing match between Eddie and Thor. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.